This is Chapter 5, Lesson 6. It's called Find the Percent in the Whole. And this is really the same teaks as we did yesterday, except for yesterday we were focusing on finding the part of the whole. So let's go ahead and look a little more closely at this. The key vocabulary words are proportion and percent proportion. So let's figure out what a proportion is. It says proportion is an equation that shows two ratios are equivalent. In a percent proportion, one ratio compares part to the whole, and the other ratio is the equivalent percent written as a fraction with the denominator of 100. And we've actually already kind of been doing this with some of our previous problems that we've worked out. As a review, a fraction is a ratio. 2/5 is a comparison of a part to the whole number of pieces in the fraction, and then 2 is the number of pieces in the fraction. So it's asking us, what do we call the numerator? So is the numerator the part that's on top, or is the numerator the part that's on the bottom? Go ahead and answer that. Is the numerator the part or the whole? Okay, thanks for answering that. Before I show the answer, though, I'm going to ask you the second part of the question, which is the denominator. Is the denominator describing the part of the whole, or is it describing the whole? Go ahead and answer that. Very good. If you said the numerator was the part, you're exactly right, and the denominator is the whole. Now, sometimes the part can be larger than the whole if we're talking about an improper fraction that ends up becoming a mixed number. So don't always think that the part is smaller than the whole, because that's not the case. A ratio uses information. Using information in the first ratio, fill in the others. So if we have this ratio 2 and 5, how are we going to fill this in? Well, very simply, you can write 2/5 as 2 to 5, or you can actually write 2 to 5. So a ratio can be written 3 different ways. Right now, this is an example of a percent proportion. If we're saying that 2/5 is equivalent to something over 100, what are we going to do to the number 5 that's going to make it that whole number of pieces, 100 pieces? Well, of course, we're going to multiply by 20. And so what is 2 times 20? Go ahead and answer that for me, please. Great, the answer is 40. Very good. All right, so now we have the second equivalent fraction, equivalent ratio here, a percent ratio, and of course that can be written in simplified form, percent, 40 out of 100. So 40%, if we look at this picture, 40% of this whole number 5 is the number 2. So 2 is 40% of 5, or 40% of 5 is 2. And that is the key to today's lesson. Is actually, it's reading comprehension, knowing what you are referring to, and then writing the proportion to set up how to solve it. Just like before in the previous lesson, one way to solve percent problems is to draw models. And the models are typically strip diagrams in which the top line is like a number line that skip counts the benchmark percents. And then, of course, the bottom line is going to skip count the number, the decimal that's related to the percent. Okay, if you know part of the percent, you can find the whole. Also, you know part and the whole, you can find the percent. You have used bar diagrams and double number lines to solve percent problems, which is just what I just said. Okay, 10 is what percent of 40? And so there's another way to solve this, but basically they've decided to put the 0 on top and the 100%, and then we have 10 is 10 out of 40. So we skip counted by tens, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. And so we go back to the 10, and we notice that this is 4 parts. Half of 100 is 50, half of 50 is 25, halfway between 50 and 100 is 75. So you solved that. That's 25% this way. Okay, so, but you could have done it a different way. We could have said that 10 out of 40. And how can we simplify this? What can we divide the top and the bottom number by? Very good. 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. And 40 divided by 10 is 4. And of course, we know after a lot of work that 1/4 is equivalent to 25% because 1/4 is 25 cents. So that's another way we could have solved that problem. Okay, this next problem uses the model number line. It's also a double number line. And it says country music makes up 75% of Landon's music library. If he has downloaded 90 country music songs, how many songs does Landon have in his music library? So, of course, we have the number 75%, which we associate with 25%. So the top of the number line is 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. So we can set that up easily. And we know that 75% is equivalent to 90, so we write 90 right here. So if I look at the number line, 1, 2, 3 spaces equals 90. 90 divided by 3 is 30. So 30 plus 30 is 60, plus 30 is 90. So if I add another 30, that's where they get the 120 to solve that problem. Okay, and again, there are other ways of solving that, but this is solving it with a model. All right, what I'd like you guys to do right now is go ahead and solve for A. If you have 30, what percent, 30 is what percent of 60? So I'm going to begin this by drawing a model. And we have 60, and we have 0, and then we have 100%, and then we have 0. So what do we know about 30 and 60? Where would we put that on this number line? Okay, so if we put the 30 here, what percent of 60 is the number 30? Answer that for me, please. Okay, you're exactly right. So 30 plus 30 is 60. So the correct answer is going to be 50%. 30 is 50% of 60. Okay, let's go ahead and solve this one. 60 is 20% of what number? So this time, if we do a number line, okay, we know 20%. So I'm going to go ahead and write 0%, and I'm going to write 100%. And so 20% is multiples of 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So here's 20. And 60 is 20% of what number? So I know that 60 is going to be right here where the 20 is. So 60 is going to be right here. All right, so sorry for the mess there. So how many spaces did you take to get from 0 to 60? Think about that. So we have this many spaces. So what would be in between 0 and 60? And how can that help us figure out what this 100% is that we don't know? Go ahead and think about that, please. Okay, so to get from 0 to 60, there were 2 spaces. So that's half of that is 30. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300. So 60 is 20% of the number 300. Okay, when we're using a percent proportion, we just set up the fraction that we know, and then we set up whatever the percent is over 100. Okay, so in this diagram, 24 30-seconds is equivalent to 75%. So 24 is 75% of 32. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing for 15 is 30% of what number? So 15 is 30%. So we can go ahead and write 30 over 100 because we know that's what 30% looks like. We know that 15 is the part. 15 is 30%, so 15 is smaller. 15 is smaller than what number? We don't know this bottom part. So this is how we set it up. This is where reading becomes very, very important. So what do we do to the number 15 to make it 30? Well, actually, they're going backwards here. So you can say 15 times 2. They're actually showing 30 divided by 2. So 100 divided by 2 would be 50. And that's where we get that 15 is 30% of the number 50. Okay. All right, let's look at another example. 225 is what percent of 300? In this case, they tell us the part and the whole. 225 over 300 is what percent? So we know the 100 at the bottom. Okay, so they get 75% because, well, we could do it a couple different ways. So you could either divide the number 225 by 300. You can simplify by dividing the top and bottom by the greatest common factor. They've drawn this chart over here where they have 300 and they have 25, 50, 75, 100, and they have skip counted by 75, so you can do the model as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice two of these. We'll do two of these. 75 is 15% of what number? So the first thing we have to do is set this up. So we know 15%, so we're going to write 15%, and we know that that is equal to 75 is 15% of what number? So is 75 a smaller number or a larger number? Is it the part or is it the whole? Answer that, please. Okay, 75 is the part. It says 75 is 15%, so it's across from the 15 of what number? We do not know this bottom number. Okay, so we have to figure out, okay, what can I do to 75 to make it a 15? Or I can think backwards. 15 times what is 75? So let's see. I can simplify this. If I divide the top and the bottom number by 5, what am I going to get? 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. Okay, then we have 75. That might be a little bit easier for us to deal with. So if I say 75 divided by 3, go ahead and solve that for me, please. Okay, 3 will go into 7 2 times. And then we end up with 15. And 3 will go into 15 5 times. So we basically have divided by 25. That is supposed to be a division symbol. All right, I'm going to try this again. So 75 divided by 25 equals 3. That means something divided by 25 equals 20. What is the opposite of division? And we're going to later find out that the inverse is actually the word we're looking for. So the opposite of division is what? Is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? Well, it won't be division. So you're right, it's multiplication. So we're going to take, if we go this way, we're going to multiply. And that's supposed to be an arrow. So, wow. Okay, so we're going to say 20 times 25. And this is easier than it looks because we know we're multiplying by a multiple of 10. So put the 0 down. And then that's 10, carry the 1. And we end up with the number 500. So the answer to D is 500. All right. Pen, cooperate. Okay, final example. 9 is 36%. Actually, let's do a different one. 7 is what percent of 10? Okay. Well, okay, so we have 7 is what percent of 10? So in this case, we do not, I'm going to change the color just to keep this a little bit more easier to read. So we don't know what the percent is. So we're going to leave the percent up here empty. Scratch that. We do know the percent is what, no, we don't. Okay, 7 is what percent of 10? Okay, go ahead and figure that out for us because we've been doing very similar problems to this already. Very good. So what do you do to 10 to make it a 100? Multiply by 10. So what is 7 times 10? The answer is 70. And of course, 70, the answer for F is 70%. Okay. Now we're going to do some guided practice together in a little bit, and then you're going to get started on your independent practice. And I need to remember to write the percent sign here. All right. Thank you for taking good notes, and please ask questions if you're stuck on anything. Thank you.